Hey guys, Peter here to do an album review. Today I'm here to tell you about the latest from Unleashed, No Sign of Life, out November 12th on Napalm Records. This album has 11 tracks, 39 minutes in length, and this is the band's 14th full-length studio album. They are a Swedish death metal band. Now, the way this album is put together is definitely one of the highlights, one of the strengths of the record. You look at the way the songs connect with one another, and then you look at the length of the album itself. Those two are completely intertwined from beginning to end. You can't talk about one without talking about the other. The songs have a lot of similarities. These tracks have a lot of things in common, but they created enough nuances to break some of these tracks or to break some of the momentums within the album so that the record is a lot more interesting, the record is a lot more engaging, and a lot more fluid. You add 39 minutes into the picture and the record just flies by. This is one of those records that you get to the end, you feel satisfied with the experience, but there's still room for seconds. So this really showcases the playability and how engaging this album is all around. Once you get into the soundscape, they did not reinvent the wheel, not that I was expecting them to do so. This album has all the trademarks of Unleashed. The sound really carries forward. It has a sense of robustness, it's heavy, it's powerful, but at the same time is still very driven with a lot of melody and atmosphere included into the experience. So it's an always evolving and always morphing soundscape that doesn't really stagnate across any given track. It always has a sense of pushing the listener forward, keeping the listener entertained, keeping the listener engaged, and allowing itself to change ever so slightly from track to track so that the experience stay connected, but they're slightly different from song to song. Within the soundscape of this record, there's only one element that I really didn't like, and that is the bass. I didn't feel like it was balanced, I didn't feel like it was constant from top to bottom, and I actually didn't like the sound of it in the mix. It didn't feel right to me. It felt a little bit too driven, and I wanted the bass to be a little bit heavier, a little bit more down-tuned, if you will, to have a bigger impact on the overall experience, to ground this record a little bit better, to help exactly what the drums are doing throughout the entire experience. Because when you look at the drums and you look at the guitars, they have two very similar pads. Those pads are side by side. Sometimes they have some differences within them, but you start to see how they really combine with one another in order to push this album across two different fronts. The drums are pushing heaviness. They're pushing a little bit of a foundation as well at the same time. So they're creating heaviness, they're creating a little bit of volume, they're making the sound feel a little bit more robust, but at the same time they're bringing it down. And that's where the bass could have really helped the drums in order to create a better shape, in order to create better forms within the songs themselves. The guitars are pretty much doing the same thing, but the only exception here is that the guitars are not grounding the sound. The guitars are actually pushing it upwards, but they're also driving the experience. They're also partnering up with the drums in order to create that robust nature, in order to create those tempos that really ignite each and every single song. So I like the combination of elements here between the drums, guitars, having some polar opposite effects, but also having some middle ground that really connects the two. And the only element that really sits on the outside that feels like it doesn't have a room to operate or feels like it doesn't belong in this overall design is the bass. Now the vocals are super consistent from beginning all the way to the end. I love the vocals on this record. I really felt like they had the necessary impact, not just with the lyrical content, but with the songs themselves, bringing some melody, bringing some aggression, bringing some intensity, really igniting the experience, really making these songs feel alive, like they had a soul, like they had a heartbeat, and allowing the overall soundscape to be as robust as possible because the vocals really packed all the empty spaces created by the drums and guitars. So the overall vocal performance on this album is absolutely outstanding. Outside of the bass, that is really the only soft spot that I see on this record. Outside of that one element, this is perhaps one of their strongest albums in the last couple of releases. I really like how it feels together. I like the sense of balance. I like the sense of cohesiveness that it has. I like the fact that there is a lot of similarity between these songs, but at the same time they don't sound repetitive, which is really important. When you look at this record, it's really easy to tell the forest from the trees. It's really easy to pinpoint which song is which just by listening to certain key elements within those tracks. Everything around it, it may kind of bring them all together, but there is enough unique elements within each and every single song that really sets them apart from each other. Now, as far as favorite songs are concerned, I want to start off with No Sign of Life. This song has a lot of brutality, it has a lot of heaviness from the start. It's super driven in the verses, allowing the chorus to be a little bit more melodic, allowing the chorus to breathe a little bit better, both musically and vocally. The chorus really becomes the focal point of this track. It's very hooky. The drums help steamroll the sound. Here you go. The drums create this sense of volume, create this sense of a robust nature around it, really encapsulating everything and taking everything by storm. The guitars kind of merge in with that sound. They become part of that atmosphere. They become part of that soundscape. But really is the drums the ones that are pushing the experience as far as this track is concerned. The solo resets the song, allowing it to break the patterns that you start to see developing from beginning all the way to the end. Next, you have the highest ideal, a track that offers a sense of progression. It starts more methodic, it starts to move into a middle ground where you start to see some intensity creeping in, and then finally it bursts and it becomes a more powerful and direct and heavy track. This sense of progression works really well for this song from the beginning, because even though the song at one time starts to plateau, you never really feel like the plateau exists because you still connected with that progression that was there from the beginning. So the song always feels like it's following a movement, or that's finding another step on that ladder as you start to climb from beginning all the way to the end. The solo allows the track to have a sense of pause, dip, and reset. Really interesting the way this solo comes across in this track, because it really gives you this huge valley, but at the same time it reaches itself into the highest peak and really brings the song upwards with it. Last but not least, my favorite track on this album, Midgard Warriors for Life. This is a life song, no doubt about it. This is an anthem. It's a banger and it's an anthem. It has a melodic nature to its sound, specifically once it gets into the chorus. It has balance between heaviness and this thundering presence that it carries. Very dynamic track between verses and chorus. It really is a little bit of a roller coaster ride, but not necessarily an abrupt ride. It's a little bit of a smoother ride, but the ride nevertheless. But how epic the chorus is, it's really what defines this track. It's epic because it's melodic, both musically and vocally. The vocals really change ever so slightly in order to give a different nuance to this track, really calling for an audience to sing along this chorus in a live setting. Like I said, an anthem and a banger all in one. This is it. Unleashed, No Sign of Life, out November 12 on Napalm Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.